Bend is about 3 hours southeast of my place. I drove through the night. I know that sounds impulsive. It was. But after sitting in my car outside the Siler Creek property for an hour, rereading the letter twice more, and staring at the photograph until I had every detail memorized, I realized I wasn't going to be able to go home and sleep and wait until morning like a rational adult. My dad had been alive somewhere for 23 years. Sleep could wait. I found Ruth Ellison through a combination of the Bend City Directory, a local community Facebook group, and a woman at a bakery on the east side of town who knew everyone and wasn't shy about it. Ruth Ellison, 68. Retired. Lived alone in a small craftsman house on a quiet street backed up against a creek. No social media presence. No LinkedIn. No digital footprint beyond a single mention in a 2011 local newspaper article about a community water rights meeting. I parked in front of her house at 6:20 in the morning. I sat there for 15 minutes debating whether showing up at a stranger's house at dawn was something a sane person does. Then I thought about my dad's voice on that phone I don't have long and got out of the car. I knocked. 30 seconds of silence. Then the sound of movement inside. Then a long pause that felt like someone looking through a peephole. The door opened. She was small and sharp-featured, white hair cut close, wearing a fleece robe and reading glasses pushed up on her forehead. She looked at me the way people look at something they've been expecting but aren't sure they're ready for. Her eyes went straight to my face and stayed there. Then she said it. I wondered when you'd come. Your father said you'd have his eyes. I didn't say anything for a moment. She stepped back from the door and held it open. Come in, she said. I'll put the kettle on. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. I know. Sit down. Her kitchen was small and warm and cluttered in a way that felt lived in rather than messy. Stacks of folders on the counter, a corkboard above the table covered in printed maps and handwritten notes, a shelf of binders along one wall labeled by year going back to the early 90s. She put tea in front of me without asking if I wanted it and sat across the table and looked at me with the direct, assessing gaze of someone who spent a long time in a profession that required reading people quickly. You found the box, she said. It wasn't a question. Under the oak tree, I said. He told me to find you. He said to say, the oak tree. That you'd know. She nodded slowly. Something shifted in her expression. Not surprise. More like the particular relief of a long-held breath finally released. How did you know to go looking, she asked. I told her about the phone call. She was quiet for a long moment after that. That's not possible, she said. But she said it softly, and she didn't look like someone who was dismissing me. She looked like someone adding a piece to a puzzle they'd been working on for a very long time. I know, I said. I looked it up. The number's been dead for decades. He always said he'd find a way, she murmured, almost to herself. Then she focused back on me. What's your name? Your full name. James Calloway. My dad called me Jamie. Something crossed her face, grief, maybe. Or the memory of it. I knew your father for 11 years, she said. He was one of the most careful, most principled men I've ever worked with. And when he disappeared, I spent the better part of a decade trying to find out what happened to him. Who are you? I asked. What did you do? What did you and my dad work on together? She wrapped both hands around her mug. I was an investigator, she said. Not law enforcement. Private, but contracted through a federal watchdog organization that no longer exists. It was quietly defunded in 2005, which was not a coincidence. She paused. Your father came to me in 1998. He'd been sitting on what he knew for almost a year, too scared to move, not knowing who to trust. Someone gave him my name. What did he tell you? Everything he put in that letter. And more. She stood and went to the shelf of binders, pulled one down, 1999, the spine red, and set it on the table between us. We spent 3 years documenting it. Building a case. The land reclassification scheme was the surface layer, James. Underneath it was something much larger. She opened the binder. Inside were maps. Survey documents. Spreadsheets of transactions. Photographs of meetings between men in suits outside buildings I didn't recognize. Pages and pages of meticulous, handwritten notes in 2 different handwritings, one I didn't know and one I did. My dad's. The false maps, she said, pointing to a highlighted section of a federal land document, were being used to reroute environmental protection designations. Certain tracts of land were being quietly stripped of their protected status on internal federal records while remaining protected on public-facing records. 2 sets of books, essentially. Why? I said. What were they doing with the land? She looked at me steadily. Selling access to it, she said. Drilling rights. Mining rights. Logging contracts. All off the books. All funneled through shell companies back to a very small group of people, some in federal positions, some in private industry. She paused. We identified 9 individuals by the time your father disappeared. One of them was a sitting federal official. The photograph. The man my dad had written "Don't trust him" on the back of. Harmon, I said. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. Where did you hear that name? She said quietly. The letter. And there's a photograph. My dad and a man he labeled Harmon, 1994, in front of what looks like a government building. She was very still for a moment. Douglas Harmon, she said. He was regional director of a federal land management division from 1992 to 2003. He retired quietly. He's been a private consultant ever since. A pause. He's still alive, James. He's 71 years old, and he lives 40 minutes from here. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. And my dad, I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Do you know where he is? Do you know if he's alive? She held my gaze. The last contact I had was in 2019. An anonymous email from an account that deleted itself after one message. It said 2 words. She reached into the 1999 binder and slid a printed piece of paper across the table to me. 2 words, printed in plain text. Still running. I stared at that piece of paper for a long time. He's been hiding for 23 years, I said. Yes, because of Harmon. Because of what he knows. What we both know. She leaned forward slightly. James, the USB drive in that box. Have you opened it? Not yet. I don't have a way to. I'd need an adapter. It's an old format. I have one, she said simply. She stood and went to a drawer and came back with a small USB adapter and set it on the table in front of me. I looked at it. Then I looked at her. Before I plugged that in, I said slowly, I need to ask you something. Ask. My dad told me in the letter not to trust anyone. Federal, local, anyone. He said to find you specifically. I paused. Why you? After 23 years, why are you still in the same city, same house, same address? If Harmon is 40 minutes away and you've been building a case against him, why are you still here? Why haven't they come for you? Ruth Ellison looked at me for a long moment. Then, very slowly, she smiled. It was a sad smile. Tired and old and complicated. Because I'm the bait, she said. I've been the bait for 15 years. They don't touch me because touching me would confirm everything. As long as I'm just a retired woman in Bend with a lot of old files, I'm manageable. The moment I become a martyr with a documented case file. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I picked up the adapter. I reached into my jacket pocket for the USB drive. Plug it in, she said quietly. Let's see what your father left you. The drive had one folder. Inside the folder were 847 files.